Guy Penrod has always been more than just a singer. To countless fans across the world, his voice became a comforting presence, a source of peace, hope, and unwavering inspiration. From his early years as a key member of the Gaither Vocal Band to the rise of his remarkable solo career, Guy carried gospel music with such passion and sincerity that every listener could feel the depth of his message. His signature long hair, warm and welcoming smile, and commanding stage presence made him instantly recognizable. Yet what truly set him apart was not the image, but the authenticity that flowed through his songs. He didn't just perform music, he ministered through it. Every note he sang carried faith, and every lyric served as a heartfelt testimony. Each concert felt less like a show and more like a shared prayer between him and the audience. For years, Guy gave himself completely to his calling. He spent endless hours traveling from one town to another, singing in churches, arenas, and gatherings filled with people searching for hope. His music became a refuge for broken hearts, a source of courage for the weary, and a living reminder of the power of God's love. But behind this extraordinary public figure was a private man with a deeply personal story, a husband, father, and a human being navigating life's quiet struggles. While the world celebrated the gospel legend, very few truly knew the man behind the music. That man, who gave so much of himself to his ministry and his fans, is now entering a new and emotional chapter in his life, one that has not only touched him deeply, but has also moved his wife, Angie Clark, to finally step into the light and share her voice. Behind every great man, there often stands someone whose influence is felt far more than it is seen. For Guy Penrod, that person has always been his wife, Angie Clark. While the crowds cheered for his powerful voice and moving performances, Angie quietly remained in the background, his pillar of strength, patience, and love. She wasn't the one standing under the stage lights, but she was the one who held everything together once the lights went dark. Her role was not secondary. It was foundational. Angie was Guy's partner in every sense, his confidant, his comforter, and the person who reminded him of who he truly was beyond the fame. During Guy's long tours, when months on the road kept him away from home, Angie ensured that their children always felt secure and deeply loved. When the weight of ministry grew heavy and the expectations of fame became overwhelming, she listened quietly in the late hours, offering him encouragement and prayer when he needed it most. What made Angie special was her humility. Despite being married to one of gospel music's most celebrated voices, she never sought attention or recognition. Instead, she found her purpose in being the quiet strength her husband could always rely on. To the public, Guy was a gospel icon. To Angie, he was simply her husband, the father of their children, and the man she chose to walk beside through every joy and every trial. For many years, Angie chose to remain silent, keeping their private life guarded from the outside world. Her heart believed that some things were sacred and worth protecting. But as Guy began to transition into a new phase of life, Angie felt a gentle pull within her spirit, a sense that it was time to speak. Not for attention, but to share the truth of their journey. To reveal the faith and humanity behind the legend. Every journey encounters moments that forever change its direction. For Guy and Angie, that moment came quietly, but it carried great emotional weight. After decades of traveling, performing, and living in the constant rhythm of ministry, Guy began to sense a shift deep within. The endless nights on the road, the physically demanding schedule, and the emotional toll of always being on started to wear him down. For the first time, the man who had spent his life pouring out strength through song realized he needed renewal for himself. There wasn't one dramatic event that caused this shift. It was a gradual awakening. The fatigue from touring, the longing to spend more time with his family, and the deep desire to slow down grew too strong to ignore. Guy, who had always put others first, finally had to admit that he couldn't continue living at the same relentless pace forever. It was a painful realization because music wasn't just his career, it was his calling. Yet even callings can evolve into new seasons. For Angie, watching her husband reach this crossroad was both emotional and spiritual. She had witnessed his sacrifices, sleepless nights, and the quiet burdens he carried. She knew it was time for a change, not because he had lost his love for music, but because God was guiding him toward a different kind of peace, one centered on health, rest, and family. This wasn't the end of Guy's story, it was the beginning of a beautiful new chapter. And in that transformation, Angie felt something awaken inside her as well. After years of silence, Angie finally found her voice. She began to feel that their story needed to be told, not for fame or sympathy, but to give hope and understanding to others. She realized that Guy's fans, who had supported him through every stage of his career, deserved to know the truth behind the man, the one learning to embrace balance, faith, and family over fame. Angie believed that people needed to see that even the most admired figures need time to rest, heal, and grow. When Angie first spoke publicly, her voice trembled, but her words carried truth and grace. She wasn't speaking as the wife of a gospel star, but as a woman of faith, a partner who had walked hand in hand with her husband through every mountain and valley. Her message was simple but powerful. Life isn't about constantly staying in the spotlight. It's about listening to God's timing and embracing change with humility. When Angie opened her heart, she didn't just share the beauty and blessings of life with Guy. She spoke honestly about their struggles, the unseen battles that few people ever witnessed. To outsiders, Guy's career looked perfect: bright lights, huge crowds, and a voice that seemed to touch heaven itself. But behind the scenes, there were challenges that tested their faith and their marriage. There were long stretches of separation. When touring kept Guy away for weeks, leaving Angie to shoulder the responsibilities of both parents, she smiled in public, but in private, she often wept and prayed for strength. There were times when finances were uncertain, especially in the early years, and Angie had to manage every penny carefully, trusting that God would provide, and He always did. Yet those trials reminded her that even gospel legends face the same struggles as ordinary families. The pressures of fame also brought criticism and unrealistic expectations. Some people judged or misunderstood Guy, and Angie often protected him from the sting of harsh words. She would remind him that his mission was greater than any voice of doubt. But still, it hurt. Behind every song that moved millions, there was a man who sometimes wrestled with discouragement, a woman who stood beside him in unwavering faith through every trial and triumph. Angie and Guy's story became more than a testimony of success. It became a story of endurance, grace, and divine purpose. And now, as they walk through this new season together, their journey continues to inspire others to trust that even when life changes, faith and love will always light the way forward through all their trials and challenges. Angie often said that their faith became the anchor that held everything together. Prayer was no longer just a ritual. It became their lifeline, something that kept them grounded when everything else seemed uncertain. Love, too, became their shelter, a place where they could find peace in the midst of chaos. Angie spoke with heartfelt honesty, explaining that while their journey may have appeared perfect to the outside world, it was actually built on countless tears, endless prayers, and many moments of simply holding on when life felt unbearably heavy. These struggles, she said, were never signs of weakness, but proof of God's strength, evidence that His hand had carried them through every storm. When Angie began to talk about Guy's new life, her voice carried both peace and gratitude. After so many years of constant traveling, back-to-back concerts, and the unrelenting demands of ministry, Guy had finally stepped into a slower, more meaningful season. It wasn't a retirement from music. It was more like a rebirth, a rediscovery of life itself. These days, Guy spends most of his time at home, surrounded by the laughter, love, and warmth of his family. Instead of racing from city to city, he now wakes up to quiet mornings filled with prayer. A cup of coffee at the kitchen table, the kind of simple moments that once slipped away unnoticed. He takes long walks through the fields near their home, listens to the gentle sounds of nature, and finds joy in the ordinary beauty of life that fame and travel once made hard to enjoy. Spiritually, his life has deepened. Guy still sings, but his music now flows from a quieter place, not bound by stages, crowds, or schedules. He sings for his grandchildren, for intimate gatherings, and sometimes just within the stillness of his home. His voice, still as strong as ever, carries a new softness, a gentleness that reflects a man who has made peace with himself and with God's timing. According to Angie, Guy's ministry, health, and overall well-being have also become a major priority. After years of constant travel and performance, even the strongest person can grow weary. But now, Guy is taking care of himself in ways he once neglected. He makes time to rest, eats healthy meals, and embraces a balanced rhythm that allows him to feel renewed inside and out. Angie said she can see a new light in his eyes, one that tells her he is truly at peace. This new chapter, Angie explained, isn't about leaving the past behind. Instead, it's about embracing the present, honoring the years of hard work and service while allowing faith, family, and rest to take center stage. To her, this is the most beautiful season of all, because it's filled with the things that matter most: love, faith, and the quiet joy of simply being together. Angie Clark's presence in Guy Penrod's transformation has been nothing short of essential. While Guy is the one whose life visibly changed, Angie was the steady hand guiding him through it all. For years, she quietly carried the heavy burdens that came with his career, the long separations, emotional strain, and constant demands of life on the road. But when the time for change finally arrived, it was Angie who gently encouraged him to embrace it without fear. She was the first to notice the toll that constant traveling had taken on him. His shoulders weighed down with exhaustion, his spirit longing for peace, and his heart yearning for home. Instead of urging him to push forward, Angie reminded him that slowing down wasn't failure. It was wisdom. Her calm, loving words gave Guy the courage to realize that his value wasn't defined by how many concerts he performed, but by the life he lived and the love he gave. Throughout this transformation, Angie never sought recognition. Her role wasn't dramatic or attention-seeking. It was quiet, consistent, and filled with unwavering faith. She prayed with him when he was uncertain, reassured him when he doubted whether people would still care for him outside the spotlight, and reminded him that, while his voice was a gift, his role as a husband, father, and grandfather was an even greater blessing. Together, they built a new rhythm for life, one that values peaceful days, family conversations, and moments of faith over fame and schedules. Angie's steady faith helped Guy see this season not as an ending, but as a beautiful continuation of the story God was still writing for them. When she finally spoke about her role, she didn't boast or take credit. She said it was her honor to walk beside her husband through every season, the hard years, the busy years, and now the years of peace. Her love and unwavering faith became the foundation that allowed Guy to rediscover balance and joy. Without her strength and support, this transformation might never have been possible. When Angie Clark finally chose to speak publicly, one of the first things she wanted to do was share a heartfelt message with the fans who had stood beside Guy throughout every chapter of his life. With a gentle voice full of warmth and gratitude, she thanked them for their prayers, their letters, and their endless encouragement. She spoke of how every smile in the audience, every hand lifted in worship, and every kind word had helped carry Guy through his most exhausting days. Angie reminded everyone that the fans were never just listeners, they were part of Guy's journey. Their love and faith had deeply touched their family, especially during the moments when life behind the scenes was difficult. She shared that Guy often referred to his audience as friends, not strangers, because the bond they shared through faith went far beyond music. Many fans had wondered what this new season meant for Guy's future in gospel music, and Angie wanted to reassure them. She explained, with honesty and tenderness, that while his schedule may look different, his heart for ministry remains unchanged. He still carries the same passion for sharing God's love, only now it's expressed in quieter, more personal ways. His voice, his spirit, and his message are all still alive. It's presented through a new form. Angie also encouraged the fans to embrace this change with faith. For those who felt sad about not seeing Guy on big stages as often, she reminded them that seasons of rest are just as sacred as seasons of work, and that God's plan often unfolds in ways that surprise us. She ended her message with a simple yet powerful truth. Thank you for loving Guy. Thank you for loving our family. And thank you for continuing to walk this journey with us. It's not over. It's simply taken a new path. Her words brought comfort and peace to all who listened, reminding everyone that the bond between Guy and his fans remains strong, and that their shared love continues to flow deeply through every note, every prayer, and every season of life. As Angie spoke, her voice carried a tenderness that revealed just how emotional and meaningful this moment was for her, a testament to the love, faith, and enduring grace that continue to define their journey together.